Happy Monday and good noon. I'm Michelle Gooch with Life by Design. I love taking your scattered thoughts, feelings, ideas, conundrum, and helping you find clarity in the middle of all that. Not just clarity, but clarity that moves you to the next steps. Helps you see what the next steps are and moves you through the next season. If that's something you're interested in, you can find me at lifebydesign.guru, www.lifebydesign.guru. March is Women's History Month, and I want to tell you a story of an inspirational woman, Isabel Bumfrey. Isabel was born likely about 1797. We don't have a record of her birth, which is typical of babies born into slavery, but we estimate that was the year she was born. By the time she was 9 years old, she was sold away from her family and began to do her own growing up. She lived in the state of New York, and New York had been negotiating the abolition of slaves since she was about 2 years old. Now she's married, she has 3 children. Her owner has reneged on the offer to make her a free woman, and she grabs up her infant, Sophia, and escapes slavery. Within the year, maybe a year or so later, the state of New York emancipates all of their slaves, and she learns that her 5-year-old son got sold to a man in Alabama, got sold to the South, and she knows it was illegal. So she takes him to court. Now I'm going to repeat this. A black woman, just now out of slavery, took a white man to court in the early 1800s, and she won. She got her son back. Isabel was amazing like that. She did not let the limitations that had been put on her define her. She defied all the limitations. Later, she gets accused of something that she didn't do, and when the dust settled there, she again took a couple to court for slander, and she won. She was incredible at defying the limitations put on her. Incredible. So she constantly worked towards the abolition of slavery, and in fact, you know her. She changed her name by the time she was about 46, 47 years old. She changed her name to Sojourner Truth, and that's how you know her. And she devoted her life to human rights, all kinds of causes that fall under that umbrella of human rights. And she lived with all the well-known abolitionists, you name them, she was among them. She gained, as the movement gained momentum, she gained popularity. An impressive woman. She she dictated her story to her friend Olive, who wrote it down so that we would have a copy, a book that is about her life. And the reason Olive wrote it down for her is because she never learned to read or write. Truth never learned to read or write, and yet she was at the center of this massive, incredible movement for human rights. And in 1864, she was summoned to Washington, D.C. While she was there, we know at least one time when she sat down with the President of the United States, President Abraham Lincoln, to share her thoughts, her ideas, her own experience, because her voice was needed. It was necessary. But the only reason she got to that place, born into slavery, escaped slavery, fought for rights of hers and others, the only way she got to that place where she's sitting next to the President of the United States is because she repeatedly defied all the limitations that had been put on her. Well, her story is monumental, and I recommend you go find it. Read all about her. What I want us to take from her is this idea that she defied the limitations. No one had more limitations on her, on anyone, than she did. You can't get more limitations than what she lived under, and yet constantly she pushed against the limitations. In our world, We likely don't have quite as many people putting limitations on us as she did. But probably we have put limitations on ourselves. Unknowingly, we put limitations on ourselves. So my challenge for us this week is that we would defy the limitations, whether other people are putting them on us or we're putting them on ourselves. Those limitations that we put on ourselves sound a lot like, I can't, I won't, I don't know how. I'm not a runner. I'm not a public speaker. Those are limitations we're putting on ourselves. So this week, begin to pay attention to the limitations that you're putting on yourself, and then what action step you need to take to defy those limitations. Sojourner Truth was a woman of action. So what action steps do you need to take to defy the limitations? If she were here to speak to us today, I think she would say, when you defy the limitations, your entire world is better for it. I'll see you next Monday.